Hey y'all, welcome back. This is the last week of May and I have one last grocery shopping trip that I need to do, but I'm trying to stick to a very small budget. So I was planning to do $350 for the entire month for my family of four, but it's just getting too tight. So I'm gonna have to change it to $400 a month, which is what I did every single month last year. And so I think I can make it work. It's just that the prices have been going up a little bit here and there, and the little bits really do add up. Plus my kids are getting hungrier and have some special dietary needs. So I will have to change it back to $400 a month. That being said, I have about $45 left in this budget for this month, but I want to try to see if I'm able to do even less than that. So let's go ahead and get started. So again, I have my handy dandy meal planner here. And again, you can get this on Amazon if you want something similar. I designed it myself. It's got 52 weeks of weekly meal planning sheets, plus it's got inventory sheets in the front here. I just take the entire thing with me to the store so I can make sure I don't overbuy, I don't double buy or anything like that, and I'll stick to my list. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna take inventory first of my pantry, refrigerator, and freezer, and then I'm going to reverse meal plan using the grocery ads from my local grocery stores and see what kind of deals I can find to finish the meals that I plan to make this week. So let's go. We did go on a little road trip, so I have a couple of snacks from my vacation budget here. So that's gonna help stretch the budget for snacks. I'm not gonna buy any snacks, and I still have plenty of lentils and grains, even legume rice, lots of baking supplies that I really haven't got into yet. So I really want to utilize these things and make sure I can stretch the budget just a little bit more. The main thing that I end up spending our budget on is usually fresh produce. But since we went on a random road trip last minute, I have a lot of produce from last week that we didn't end up using. So I need to make sure that I use the things before they go bad. My carrots, celery, spinach, apples, peaches, and oranges. Make sure I get all of that used. And I do have some tortillas, cheese, lots and lots of cheese that I didn't use last week. And we picked up some sourdough. We went to San Francisco. So I got some sourdough that I want to make sure that I slice and freeze as well, just so I can have that available to use. But I think we really do have quite a bit on hand, and I can really make a lot of things stretch. And in the freezer, last week I did buy these delicious hash browns. So we're gonna have a lot of really tasty things. I also shredded up the pepper jack cheese. I was worried it was gonna go bad, so I shredded it and froze it in a bag as well. And you can see it comes apart really easy even when it's frozen. So it'll be really easy to use. And I do have some freezer meals too. So I have a meatless meatloaf. I've got some of the taquitos I made a couple weeks ago. And I do still have some proteins down in my proteins drawer. So I think I'm pretty much set. And again, I still have frozen veggies and fruit that I have not used. And so I really don't know that I'm gonna need to buy that much this week. So whenever these unexpected last minute trips happen, I like to make sure that I put things in the freezer that are gonna go bad, so that way I'm not wasting all the ingredients I went and shopped for last week. So that being the cheese, and I'm gonna go ahead and dice up some veggies and just make sure everything gets used up or put in the freezer so it doesn't go to waste. And then I'm gonna really quickly just write kind of a general meal plan and what I plan to use. And then I'll show you the grocery ad if I have one nearby, which I don't even know if Aldi sent me one this week. So I might just have to take you with me and show you the deals and kind of show you what I'm purchasing to try to keep my budget super, super low. And then right after I shop, I'm going to show you several of the recipes that I'm making using reverse meal planning. And I'm gonna try to be more specific about how I came to that recipe idea so you can kind of see how to get some ideas from random things that you have on hand. So the first thing that I like to do is make sure I write down any produce that I wanna use before it goes bad. So this week it's gonna be spinach, cabbage, carrots, celery, onions, and garlic. The main things I'm worried about though is gonna be the spinach, cabbage, carrots, and onions. So I've written that on the top to keep that top of mind. And I already have a plan for tonight. I'm gonna be making salmon and rice bowls with the avocado that's about to go bad, some of the cabbage, and maybe some frozen stir-fry veggies. So I already have the salmon thawing for that. And then tomorrow night, I wanna use the rest of that spinach to make another spinach salad using some odds and ends. So I'm gonna show you how I kind of throw that together. And I'm gonna be making some homemade balsamic vinaigrette for that too. So now I kind of have a little bit of a craving for pasta, and my family does not love pasta. So I think what I'll do is maybe make a homemade pasta sauce and plan to do that on a night where sometimes we have nights where I just make random things like a cheese and mayo sandwich, a grilled cheese for one kid, and then something else for the adults. So maybe for my husband and I'll make a homemade pasta sauce. I just checked, I have a ton of diced tomatoes. I've got carrots, celery, onions, and garlic that I can whip up into like almost a homemade marinara or ragu or whatever you want to call it. And what's nice is I have everything on hand. On my list so far, I have written down a few ingredients. I do have a few requests already. So I have blackberries and raspberries requested by my daughter. I do want to pick up one more container of milk. And then I do want to pick up a few more cans of chickpeas for chickpea chicken salad, which I always love to have chickpeas on hand for that. I also want to make some more of the chocolate chip pancakes that I use chickpeas for. And so I do want to have some sort of chickpeas to start, and then a couple avocados, and then of course salmon. We like to have salmon every single week, so I do like to make sure I have that on hand. So I think I'll pick up a nice 2-pound container if I can work it in the budget, so that way I have it for a couple of weeks. And the best way that I can frame this reverse meal planning thing for those that are not familiar, instead of going with your instinct on, ooh, that sounds good this week for dinner, instead of doing that, you kind of look at your ingredients first and say, what can I make with that? So I was saying in my head, ooh, a chicken soup would be really good, but I don't have any chicken on hand. So I erased it from my brain and thought, what can I actually make with what I have on hand? The protein that I have on hand already, and the carrots and celery that I had in my mind for that chicken soup. And so I reframed my brain to think, okay, what can I use to make something maybe a little bit different, instead of putting chicken on my list, which would be another $8 or $9. So that's kind of how reverse meal planning works, is you don't always pick up the ingredients that sound good. You say, ooh, a soup sounds good. What can I use to make a soup? And if I get stuck, I use a website like supercook.com, where you can just put in the ingredients that you already have on hand, and it spits out random recipes that it finds on the internet. So you can kind of get a little bit more ideas and get surprised with maybe a new dinner that you might want to try, or something similar that you didn't think was possible with the ingredients you had on hand. Since I have some freezer meals on hand, I'm going to go ahead and work that into the last couple of meals for the week. So that way, if I haven't come up with a meal by then using just ingredients that I have on hand, because I do have so much on hand, then I'll just be able to grab a freezer meal and use that. Breakfast is going to be relatively easy. I am planning on making some homemade peanut butter so I can make chocolate peanut butter chickpea pancakes that my kids love. But I'm also going to be using that peanut butter, I think, to make some granola bars, and I might do 1 or 2 overnight oats as well. So that'll be pretty easy. Plus, for brunch on the weekends, I do have those hash brown sticks. I've got some eggs already on hand that I can save for the weekend. And then I'm gonna buy a little bit of fruit, but I do have a ton of fruit on hand too. And for an on-the-go option for the kids, we usually just do the chickpea pancakes and some milk, because they're not super hungry in the morning. They go to school very, very early. Or I can do a couple of hard-boiled eggs or something like that. So super easy for breakfast this week. So I think that'll be the plan. So I am all done with my list. It is gonna be really, really short, a short list. And I'm gonna challenge myself to really stick to it and not buy anything extra. So let's head to the store and get shopping. Okay, y'all, this is where the willpower really comes in. We brought our list. We're gonna go shopping. We're going to follow that list exactly. I'm gonna be picking up blackberries and raspberries for my berries for the week, because the price was the best on those. They look really fresh. They're gonna last all week. Then some avocados. I looked at the cantaloupe, did find one that was really nice and ripe and ready to go, and the price was good. So I picked that up. I picked up 4 cans of chickpeas. And again, I do dried chickpeas sometimes, but I do like to have the cans on hand. And I also picked up some milk, and then 2 pounds of salmon. And we are going to resist the snacks today and all of the impulse buys. And I'm just going to get the one little thing for salads this week that I did see. And I ended up spending $36.45 this week. Now that we're home from the grocery store, I'm going to go ahead and wash all of my berries in a vinegar solution and get them in an airtight container, because we'll eat them within a few days, but they tend to not get eaten if they're not washed. So I'm just gonna wash them, get them ready to go. I also cut the cantaloupe as well, and I do have a video on my channel of how to cut cantaloupe super easily. It only takes me about a minute or so doing it this way, and then we'll just eat this in a couple of days. Everything is all set for the week. I'd like us to eat these within 4 days or so, so I've portioned them that way, and I'm just gonna go ahead and hand one of these to each kid, or it really is just gonna be my daughter, because my son doesn't eat fruit just yet. It's a texture thing and all that. But within 4 days, we should have this eaten. And I think this one will be for our weekend breakfast. So that'll be really great. I didn't have any idea what I was gonna do with these sourdough. I guess they're kind of like rounds. I think they use them for the bowls at Boudin, and that's what they're mainly for. But I'm just gonna go ahead and slice them and then put them in the freezer so we can have sourdough ready to go. I'll just pop the slices in the toaster when we're ready to eat them, just straight from frozen. Now that it's all sliced, I'll just put it right back in the bag and then put it in the freezer. There you go. Lunch today, I'm just gonna go ahead and make a peanut butter and jelly sandwich. So I've got my buttermilk bread here and my homemade peanut butter. And this peanut butter, I did add some milled flax and some chia seeds too. And it's not as spreadable straight from the fridge as if it were just peanuts, because the chia seeds definitely make it a lot thicker, and the milled flax too. But it's still really nice and spreadable straight from the fridge. Not as soft though. And from our trip, I did bring a couple of these jellies home. My kids were playing with them from the food we had at the hotel. So I thought I would just bring them home and eat the rest of the jelly that's in here. So I'm just gonna use this for my sandwich. I'm gonna use the entire container of jelly. I'm just gonna put maybe a few tablespoons of this on here. There we go. Sandwiches always taste better when they're sliced. For dinner, I decided to make honey soy salmon. This is our favorite salmon, and it is super, super easy. A couple of hours before I'm ready to cook, I just put some soy sauce and honey in a container or a bag, add a little bit of ginger and some sesame oil, and then I just give that a mix until it's completely combined. Then I just add in my salmon, and this time I'm using a casserole dish, but you could definitely just use a bag or a bowl, whatever you want to do. But this way I can just put this directly into the oven when it's done marinating. So I'm just going to flip those over so I can get good contact on the salmon, and I'm going to add my lid. I'll put this in the fridge for at least 2 hours and up to 4 hours, and then I'll just take that out of the fridge. And I'm also going to be pairing this with some cabbage tonight. I like to peel off the 2 layers on the outside just because I feel like those are not as clean. Then I just slice up my cabbage, and I'm just going to turn it and slice it again to get kind of these bite-sized pieces. You could do cabbage steaks if you like, but tonight I just wanted to make sure it was these little like bite-sized pieces. I'm going to put a little bit of avocado oil, and then I'm just going to season with salt, pepper, and garlic powder. Super, super fast and easy. And then I'm just going to get that started in the oven at 400 degrees Fahrenheit. I'm just going to let that start cooking so I can get everything else started as well, because that takes the longest. I do have some avocados and a little bit of rice on hand, so I'll also be using that, plus some of this frozen edamame to go with the salmon as well. So I'm just going to go ahead and flip over my salmon because I want to be cooking it with the skin side down. I'm going to give my cabbage a quick little toss, and then I'll add my salmon in and let that cook away too. So now after about 30 minutes total of the cabbage being cooked, you'll see it's nice and caramelized. Salmon's done after 15 minutes. Cook everything up, and then I'm just serving it all in a bowl with some furikake and some hot sauce. The kids are having it deconstructed because that's how they have it. My daughter likes fruit, and my son likes extra broccoli, so that's what we like to do. The next day, I decided to make a homemade balsamic vinaigrette. It is my favorite thing to do for salad. It's just oil and vinegar, some honey, Dijon, a little bit of salt and pepper, and of course you can add garlic powder or any seasonings that you like. I'm just going to give that a shake, and then I'll put it in the fridge so that way it's ready to go when I'm ready. I wanted to make some salad for dinner, so I just put some spinach in a bowl or on a plate and added random toppings that I had in the pantry, like these chickpeas that are just crunchy, crispy chickpeas with sea salt. They're so, so good on a salad. These sliced almonds and dried cranberries that I got from Aldi this week, and some of these barbecue mung beans, which I had never tried before. They're these crunchy little mung beans. I did get these from Thrive Market, I believe, and they are so, so good on salad, especially if you're going for that barbecue vibe, which I was this evening. I also had an avocado, so I threw that on top, and I was frying up some of those chicken fries that I had in my freezer that I didn't know what to do with, so I fried up some of those, put those on the kids' plates along with some of the rotisserie chicken that I had picked up earlier this week at Costco. I just did an experiment with that to see if it was worth it, but this is what dinner ended up looking like. Again, deconstructed for the kids and in a bowl for me and my husband. This week for breakfast, I was getting kind of tired of overnight oats, so I wanted to pull out everything I had left over that I just needed to use, like some of this peanut butter and some honey that I had on hand, a little bit of oats, and then some salt, and I just added that all together with some chocolate chips, and I'm just going to go ahead and give that a mix. I'm just making homemade granola bars, and this is just a half batch, so I just kind of moved it to the side of my 8x8 container, pressed it down really, really well, and then I'm just going to put it in the freezer for 2 hours. Some of y'all have asked to see my garden, and this is just my tiny little corner of my garden. I just cleaned it up a little bit for you. I do have to pull this. This is parsley that went to seed, and that's no good anymore, so I do have to tidy that up. But I do have strawberries over here, some thyme, tomato plant, some oregano, and some green onions that were actually from the store. They were just scraps from like the bottom part of the onion, the white part, and I just put them in the ground and they grow. And I've got some jalapenos. I have carrots here as well. I have a few strawberries that are ready, so I think I'll go ahead and pick these. Pardon my gloves, they're very old. All right, so I've got a couple of well, where's the other one? The birds are going crazy right now. All right, well, I've got a couple of strawberries here, and I might have another one, but I think maybe the roly-poly's got it. No, it looks good. So, tiny little strawberry harvest. Okay, I just tidied it up a little bit more. I would normally keep all of the, everything that's going to seed, but having too much of the yellow sometimes attracts a lot of the bad bugs. So, like the yellowing leaves and stuff. So anyway, I try to clean it up, and this is just what it looks like. It's old, and I'm kind of a chaos gardener. I just kind of throw seeds everywhere, so it's not super tidy, but it does the trick. And I have another little spot here with some sage, another tomato, a cilantro that has gone to seed up here, and a tiny little bell pepper plant that's still hanging on. And I do have some citrus. I have an orange and a lime, and then I also have a lemon tree in the corner there. I have another box over here. These are dahlias. I do need to find my shears. I don't know where they went, so I can kind of deadhead this. And then some more cilantro that bolted. This is a cilantro, it's super tall. But I like to leave the flowers because all the butterflies and wasps and everything, they love coming over here, so I just leave that. And then I do have a zucchini started here too. And lastly, I have this other box over here, which is just one tomato plant. I'm testing it out. I did zucchini here, and that worked out last year, so maybe I'll try zucchini again. I did put some carrot seeds, but they haven't germinated, so I'm not sure how that's going to work. And then I've got a lot of wildflowers too that I planted on purpose. And now that we're back inside from the garden, after fixing up my garden, I pulled out my granola bars. I'm just going to give them a slice. I just made them into 6 little pieces here. And these are definitely more of a treat breakfast, but they're absolutely delicious. And I love to have them every once in a while. I'm just going to put them in an airtight container in the refrigerator, and they're going to last several weeks just like that. These are definitely a must make. Now, one of the days we did go to a local Italian market that just opened near us, and my husband had to pick up some fancy sauce and some of these ravioli with meat. This is one of the examples of my husband going rogue. I do try to keep a little extra in the budget for any times that he wants to pick up random things that he wants to eat. It was delicious though. And I'm also going to be making some homemade peanut butter. I'm just using these organic peanuts from Thrive Market that I got last month. I'm just going to make some peanut butter. It did end up being more salty than I like, so I think I'm just going to mix this with some more of the unsalted peanut butter that I'm going to make in a couple of weeks. But I'm just showing you every single step here, exactly how it looks to make peanut butter. You just add it to a food processor and just process it for about 8 minutes or so. And when you first start blending this up, you're going to think it's too dry. There's no way that it's going to become peanut butter. Just keep blending. It will release the oils after a few minutes and start emulsifying. So after about 5 minutes, it's going to look something like this. I'm just going to continue to blend it for another 3 minutes or so, and it gets really nice and smooth, and the consistency is beautiful. I just like to keep this in the refrigerator, and it's still really nice and spreadable straight from the fridge. So I'm just going to put that in a mason jar, and it'll last several weeks, if not months, in the refrigerator, because all it is blended peanuts. And of course, after making peanut butter, I had to grab another little container of jelly from the fridge and make myself another peanut butter sandwich for lunch, because apparently that can add 30 minutes to your life every time you eat a peanut butter sandwich. But anyway, I just ate it because it sounded delicious. So for dinner this evening, I am making one of my all-time favorite one-pot recipes. So I'm just going to start by adding some oil and sauteing some onions till they're soft. I'm adding taco seasoning and then just some bouillon and water. You can do stock if you have it on hand, either chicken stock or veggie stock, and then I'm going to add some green lentils. I like to give my green lentils about a 10-minute head start in this dish. This is my Southwestern lentil and bean one-pot casserole. Then I'll add some red lentils and then some quinoa and let that boil away for another 5 minutes or so, and then add some black beans. You can use any beans that you like for this. And then I'll finally add the fire roasted tomatoes, and make sure you do not add the tomatoes at the beginning because it keeps the lentils and the grains from cooking properly. So you really want to make sure your lentils and quinoa have a nice head start, then add the tomatoes. I am adding some green bell pepper from my garden as well, just a tiny one, a little frozen corn. I'll just cover that up and let that finish cooking through. And once that's done, it's ready to go and easy to serve with some Greek yogurt or sour cream, shredded cheese, jalapenos from the garden, some chips. Oh my goodness, this one is so delicious. I did give this to my kids too, but they don't quite like the spice yet. I hope you enjoyed that video and at least got a little inspiration for things to make in your home. I am working on another single person meal plan. I just went shopping for that, so I should have it ready for you in just a couple of weeks. Things have been really crazy here, but I still want all of your suggestions and requests down in the comments so I know exactly what kind of meal plans you're looking for. And I am planning on doing a freezer clean out as well. My pantry, fridge, and freezer are getting quite full with random odds and ends I've been throwing in there. So I really want to challenge myself to use everything that I have on hand and save a little extra money. And if you have any other questions, please leave those down below in the comments. And YouTube thinks that you'd like to watch another video, so go ahead and watch that wherever it is. Enjoy it, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye.